see how our audio sounds today. I know I still sound under the weather, but that's okay. Just gotta try to do whatever incremental work we can do and do what we can. Okay. Oh. Day 2 of hitting balls after vacation. Trying to get back in the swing of things, trying to hit balls every day. It's good to take a break, good to reset and oops. There we go. Oh, all right. So always important to stretch and loosen up, which I've not yet done. I usually try to do that before I start swinging, before I turn the stream on. But you know what they say about the best laid plans? I am playing golf tomorrow morning, so definitely don't want to injure myself by being too eager to start swinging, hitting balls. Alright. Don't need a 5-iron start. I'm just going to grab a wedge, pitching wedge here, and start chipping some balls. Trying to loosen up. You know, we can do some of this band work as well. I like doing that warm up with the band because it really use those muscles that you use to swing, which can be a little hard to properly warm up otherwise. Billy Bob is here. Hey, Billy Bob. The Gamer is here. What's up, Gamer? Keep trying more videos. We will. I will definitely do that. I know, I feel like recently that YouTube's really been pushing the, use our sounds. Oh, did that startle you, buddy? Oh, that was a big jump. Hey, excuse me, sir. Could you shut that? Just because. Runaway. Not runaway, but very eager dogs. So just starting to get loosened up. Chipping some pitching wedges here while I keep you know, kind of stretching, trying to lean into these positions to really feel what needs to get loose. Because I am playing golf tomorrow, I'm not going to do any speed training today. Try to save our energy. Appreciate your support and subscribing, gamer. Shout out to you guys. Coming to listen to me even when I sound all sick. Nice, so I'm starting to feel, you know, a little bit more looseness as I'm building up the speed, getting ready to, you know, working towards fuller swings. You can always start working up into some fuller swings at slower speed, right? So I can make like a full swing. This is a pitching wedge, so let's say, you know, maybe we'll try to hit it 70 yards instead of 140. Just go really slow, make sure everything is sequenced. Nice balanced finish. So I like doing a lot of those reps too. Also great for, you know, not overstressing yourself early in the warm-up. Mosquitoes trying to get in my ear. Just good practice for when there are other distractions out on the golf course. Hey, Dylan's here. What's up, Dylan? How's it going, my dude? All right, I'm just trying to look at these swings back. Yeah, not bad. 110 watchers now. Welcome in, guys. Thanks for checking out the stream. Just warming up to do a little hitting session tonight before I go and play golf tomorrow. I've been on vacation. I've been under the weather, so haven't been out here practicing or streaming. So working on getting back on the horse. Doing a bunch of slow speed work. Not trying to, you know, start going all out right away. And lots of, you know, stuff you can learn and pay attention to in terms of strike and sequencing when you slow things down. Got to get myself a bucket, you know, one of those range caddy buckets for out here. That would be cool. Sorry about the audio, guys. It's not going to be the best, but we're just going to do what we can. Hey, E17 is here. Dylan says it's going well. I'm glad to hear that, Dylan. Forrest is here. What's up, Forrest? Next Door Narts has said what's up. Hey, dog. Next Door Darts. That's a good one. That's a good name for a channel. So feeling pretty good, getting up to about maybe 80% speed with the swing. Came out of that one a little bit for sure. Caught it low on the face. That was hit well, that one. So trying to be really intentional with, you know, where I'm hitting it on the club face. Really trying to dial in the center of the club face. Dylan, pitching wedge. I lead the way. Says, hey, I've been liking the reels. Thanks very much. I appreciate your support. Yeah, this is pitching wedge. Although sometime in the next week or so, guys, one of these streams is going to be me reshafting my old blades, taking off these CB heads, popping them off, putting on the old blades. Because it's time for a change, I think. And by that I mean just going back to the irons I had used for the last many years. Alright, so I'll probably hit a couple more with the wedge and then go to something like a 7-iron. And we'll do some block stuff. I'll do like 10 with the band with the 7-iron and then 10 you know, working on the early extension. Keys for me right now is posture, keeping my chest nice and high, not getting too kind of rounded this way. Yeah, so that was hit pretty nicely. You being a crazy guy? Chiho Ito is here. Are you feeling a little better? Oh, thank you for asking, Chiho. Yeah, incrementally better. It's taking longer to recover than I had hoped from this flu or whatever it is that got me. You can probably hear, you know, it's still not quite 100%. So there's 10 balls there. So we'll grab our band, guys. You guys have seen us do this drill a bunch. Gotta grab this really quick. I left it out in the rain. So this is really just about maintaining the connection, right, in the arms and the chest. Turning back and through, right, and so I'll hit 10 balls with this, trying to make sure this connection is maintained and we put a good solid strike on the ball. Nice. That was hit really good. Sorry. Just blowing out people's earphones. Excuse me, unintentionally. Dylan says, looks smooth. Thanks very much, Dylan. 191 in the stream now. Drop a like for yourself for hanging out on a Sunday. That was good. Just trying to do whatever incremental work we can do, right? Even if it's only, you know, half of what you might want to typically do. That could be because of injury or illness, right? It's okay to say, we need to, you know, do less than 100% of what we might otherwise, and accept that some fractional amount, right, half, 40%, 50%, is still better than zero. Right, so take the opportunity to, you know, get some work in, even if it's only a little bit. Just a little bit low on the face. Let's see how it looks on the playback. That was hit a bit heavy. Just got a little bit flat-footed and here instead of nice. All right, so I'll hit one more with the band here, guys. And if you guys have questions or stuff you're working on in your own game, or need a drill for a hook or a slice, drop it in the comments, and we'll talk through some of that stuff as well. Yeah, that was the best one we've hit out of the 10, I think. So use these to your advantage. Are you feeling sick? I am feeling sick. Yes. We've been, this is better. We're getting better the last couple days, but it's been a rough go. What putting grip do you use? I've been putting left hand low, right, with my left hand, right, like this. You can DM me on Instagram, for sure. Albert said hi. Hey, Albert. Little carrot. Oh, yeah, that was your question. What causes a push to the right? So a push to the right is going to happen when the path, right, is in to out, or out to the right, and the face is square to that path, right? So that ball is not curving very much through the air. But if it is starting and staying to the right, that does tell you that the path is sending it out that way. And like I said, it sounds like the face is pretty square to that path, which is good. So you would just need to, put some blockers in place, right? You could use some old golf balls, something like this, to, force yourself to adjust and neutralize that path to be more down your target line, right? And if you can maintain that face to path relationship that is square, you should see the ball fly pretty straight once you get it launching where you want. Alternatively, if you don't want to change the path of your swing, you could get the face more closed and you would start hitting draws, right? If you could get the face closed to that path. Still open to your target line, right, in between the path and the target line. That would cause the ball to start curving back to the left towards where you want to hit it. So a couple different approaches. My, swing philosophy, or the way that I've built my swing, is to keep the club face really very square and not have a lot of face rotation through the swing. So I don't really, see the ball curve a whole bunch, whether it's left to right or right to left, on a good day anyway. All right, so really, first swing after taking the band out felt really nice. You can just tell it really, especially on the follow through, is helping me, stay in my posture and just rotate around my spine, kind of keeping this angle here as long as I can, just turning and turning. Sorry about that, guys. Thank you for bearing with me tonight. We're gonna do our best and try to make some improvement while we have the energy. And shout out to you, Battlefield. I'm glad you found something that works for you. Harry says, I was slicing the ball to the right a lot. I've changed my grip and it's no longer slicing, but now it's hooking left. Well, if you've strengthened the face, right, closed it to the point where you have started hooking the ball, right, you've identified maybe you've just overcorrected some, right, and that, in between where you're at now with hitting a hook and where you were before with seeing the slice. But it's good that you've, again, as you continue growing as a golfer, increasing your skill level, understanding that how you manipulate the club face and the path, that's how you hit different shots and control your ball flight. So this is just part of that journey, right? You're saying, okay, I figured out a way to stop, seeing the slice, but now I see the hook. So how do I try to find that middle ground? Gorilla's Trader says this isn't going anywhere. Appreciate your support. GT Floppy said, are you professional who plays in the US Open then? No, I wish. I wish. A&M said, nice hit. Thanks very much. All right, so that feels good. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to block off another 5 balls. And I'm going to hit this foot dropped back here. Nice. And this is really going to help if you, like me, tend to kind of early extend, get this right hip going towards the golf ball, right, by learning how to keep it back, you know, by starting the hip back, and then you just keep it there. Also a good drill for working on your balance, right, making sure that you can deliver a quality strike. Somebody in the comments recently on a video said that I could hit like a flamingo. I don't know if there's actually any value to hitting shots off of 1 foot, but we could try. Oh, that was going left for sure. Probably needs to be, yeah, more like there. So we can definitely hit it, but I feel like it's going left. All right, so back to what we were doing here. Nice. Hit a couple more like this. All right, we'll hit the rest of these. It's like 10 balls. We'll hit some knockdown 7-irons. So really working on abbreviating that follow through. Keeping it low. It's a bit of a toe strike. That was hit nicely. Sorry, James, this is just the quality of my body at the moment. Have you ever broke 100? I have. Have you ever put a hole in your fence? I've never put a hole in the fence, not yet. Stinka said hi. Blocktop said good one. MWM says, hate to be a jerk, but hitting off one of those mats into a net 5 feet in front of you will never translate to the course or even the driving range. Well, I have good news. I would never tell somebody that this is to replace those things. It's just a different tool. And obviously there are trade-offs, right? You know, this was a one-time investment, and now I have it in my own space. I can use it as much and whenever I want, within reason, right? I'm not sure my neighbors would love me smashing drivers at midnight, but yeah, it's a trade-off. It's a different kind of tool, and it's, for me, one that has been really effective. To be able to, you know, hit as many balls as I want, really whenever I want. the skill part does translate, right? Like just, you know, hitting the ball consistently, solidly, and being able to train, you know, the mechanics, the technique of my swing. That part is absolutely translated, right? I've never, you know, my swing has never looked better. I've never hit it, you know, this solidly, consistently. You know, I've had, you know, periods where I'll hit it really well. 360 watchers in the chat. Drop a like for yourselves. One for every degree of a circle. Stinka says, when do you do putting live streams? That's a great question, Stinka. I've done some from the golf course, you know, practicing at the, you know, just the putting green. I have an indoor setup where I do some. Generally, those are, you know, later in the evenings and during the week. But there's no set schedule for the streams as of right now. But maybe we should try to have a schedule and really stick to it if that's something that people would be interested in. And you definitely, you know, to the prior point, you definitely need to still use, you know, tools like the driving range to go out and make sure that the ball isn't doing something crazy off the face, right? Because this, you know, you don't get to see the ball fly through the air. There's definitely some advantages to that as well. All right, so knock down. Here, you know, put you guys over here. We will do what we can. Do what we can to make it sound as best as possible. Thanks, A&M. Magical said nice tattoos. Thanks very much, Magical. Brett said nice swing. Thanks, Brett. Lane said hi. Hey, Lane. Brody wants to know, how do I stop slicing and stop hitting the ground first in the hips, like pointing them forward rather than side? So I don't know exactly what you mean by that, Brody, but we can definitely help with that. Right, so number one, if you guys are struggling with a slice, very easy drill that will help pretty immediately. Grab the head cover off your driver, like this. You can practice this, you know, with a driver off a tee if you want. You know, use an iron like I've got. You're going to drop this down behind the golf ball and to the right. Okay? Generally what happens when you slice the ball, the takeaway gets inside and then over the top, right? And then the path is kind of across the ball with the face open, right? So what this is going to do is completely block that outside, you know, over the top path to the ball, right? So you're going to be forced to neutralize that path, get it coming more from the inside, more shallow, more neutral down your target line, right? Then all you have to do is make sure that the face is square and you should see the ball fly pretty straight through the air, right? So drop this down, learn how to hit some shots, and this doesn't have to be at full speed either, right? You can make some little chippy swings and just really make sure that that path is more shallow and from the inside. And this is a drill that we've recommended to a whole bunch of people who have a slice or struggle with a slice. They came back and said, wow, that really worked. I'm hitting it a lot straighter. So go and give that a try. Right? Make sure you avoid that blocker. So for your second question, Brody, you're talking about, hitting the ground first. And all that's telling us is that the low point of your swing is too far back. Right? You're hitting the ground back here behind, before the ball. And a lot of times what causes that is, by the weight staying on this backside. Right? So imagine you make a backswing and your weight stays here on the backside. Well, of course you're going to hit the ground here. if you make a backswing and your weight stays completely centered, right? Well, you can hit the ball, but you're going to hit it, you know, kind of scoopy, maybe not as well as you possibly could. But if you make a backswing and you get your weight shifted forward, well, from here you can really attack and deliver some speed and energy into that golf ball, right? So by shifting the weight in transition, you're moving the low point of the swing forward such that you can hit the ball first and then the ground, right? So try making some, you know, little half swings next time you're at the range, and make sure that you can, you know, hopefully you can hit off of grass. Make sure that you're taking a divot in front of the ball, right? So really make sure that that strike is ball first and then the turf. And you'll notice to do that, you have to get your weight going forward in transition. So hopefully that helps, Brody. It's so hard to replicate these lessons. I appreciate that. I take that as a compliment. Can you show the angle you're meant to hit the ball and where the low point is? Yeah, definitely. So if this is, you know, the golf ball, right, that I'm trying to hit, well, when I start the swing, my low point is right here behind the ball, right? We don't start with the club here. But what we need to have happen is have that low point move from here to somewhere in front of that ball, right? Because we need to hit on a descending angle down into the ball and then the turf, right? So in order to get this angled face and the sweet spot of it onto the ball, right, you typically will see the shaft leaning forward like this, and the angle of attack is negative, right? We're hitting down into it, then the ground. So the divot will be in front of the ball. Hopefully that helps, Sahil. Hello, welcome to the stream. Thanks for saying hi. Pete says, somehow I hit my iron straight but driver, leave it out of the bag, do that nasty slice. Is there any difference from the drill you just showed? Nope, same drill, Pete. So you can do this with a driver for sure, right? You would just tee up your ball here, put that head cover, you know, behind and to the right, and same kind of thing with the driver. You're gonna, you know, try to block that outside over the top part of the swing, right? And this is gonna force you to, and here's a big tip for, you know, if you're slicing, a lot of times it's a reaction to the club head coming too far inside on the takeaway, right? So especially with a driver, you want to keep that arc nice and wide, keep that club head far, you know, out and away from us in the backswing, and that gives us all this space to let the club kind of naturally fall, and then we turn through, right? That's the shallowing move that everyone's looking for. So keep it nice and wide in the takeaway. Give yourself time and space for this club to move, and that should really help, you know, straighten out. Sahil says that helps a lot. I always thought you were meant to scoop it up, kind of. Oh, that's a great point, Sahil. Right? A lot of people when they're learning golf, they think, well, I got to try to like help it up in the air, right? Kind of, you know, lean back and like you said, almost throw it. Right? It's kind of counterintuitive at first, but you want to do almost the opposite, right? Imagine you were trying to hammer that golf ball down into the ground, right? If there was a nail on the back of it and you had a hammer, you would want to kind of deliver that strike, you know, kind of down from high to low and into the ground, right? You want to get overly steep, but you know, generally that's not a problem that beginners will have, not in that sense anyway. Hudson wants to know what irons I play. Currently, we've got these Tacomos in the bag, but I've got some tailor-made blades that we're going to be putting back in. How do you help my slice with a driver? Oh, so we just talked about that. Perfect. What's a good drill to avoid getting out of your posture and flipping your hands at the ball in the downswing? My 9-iron, I feel like I'm not hitting it well. What should I do? Well, so I would say, you know, your swing or your technique is kind of, it's going to translate across all the clubs. But if there's a particular club that you are, you know, having maybe a mental block with, or you're not having a lot of confidence with, I would just, you know, kind of lean into it. Say, I know I've been struggling with this club. Maybe it's a 9-iron, and just go out and hit it a bunch, hit it on the golf course, and just work your way out of it. You know, sometimes you got to do that. So Matthew, I would do this band drill, right? This is going to force you to kind of maintain the connection, and you can use a towel for this, but generally what we're seeing, you want to maintain the connection of your arms and the club and your chest, right? So if you're coming out of your posture, right, and you're flipping your hands, you're going to lose it on one side or the other. So this can really help you just, feel that turn and turn around your spine angle, right? Maintaining that posture. So another way to feel it, right, is, hold the club maybe at like kind of the base of your head, on your neck, and on your tailbone, and you get in your posture, and you just feel that turn and turn. This is where a lot of us go, oh, like this, right? And see how I lost it? I'm not connected over here, right? Turn and turn. So sometimes separating the movement from the golf swing, right? You can do these movements without worrying about what the target is, how you struck the golf ball. So give those a try. L to L drill. It's a really good one. Why do I thin every chip? Well, that means you're that the low point of your swing is not where it needs to be. You could try moving the ball further back in your stance when you're chipping. That can help sometimes. But it sounds like you need a little bit more steepness in your chipping. Go check out Joe Mayo on Instagram if you want to learn more about, how he's helped guys like Victor Hovland with their chipping. Typically you're going to see them be a lot, steeper, right? As opposed to kind of, scoopy. So I think there's a lot to be said for that. And some is just about practice, play around with when I'm chipping, when I'm practicing my chipping, what happens? If I move it super far back, do I still thin it? If I move it really far forward, does that help? Right? You can do these kind of, experiments or play around with different things. You're welcome, Thomas. Isn't it Adam Young who spoke about the nail and the golf ball? Yeah, I've seen a lot of, it's a pretty common analogy, because I think it's very effective. Adam Young's awesome, though. Go check out his podcast, guys, The Sweet Spot with John Sherman. I listen to that pretty regularly. How to stop getting stuck and leaving hands on my back hip at impact. Good question, LMB. So if you're really getting stuck, right, the hands are kind of here and you're going like this maybe, right, kind of extending. I really like Rory McIlroy's, one of his favorite drills is doing this split grip, right? So you get to the top of the swing and then you just practice kind of feeling this arm, this right elbow, kind of tucking and staying inside here, right? Because if you're getting stuck, the hands, everything is kind of too far back behind you, right? So by splitting the grip, it really helps you feel like, oh, I have to move this elbow and kind of compress this right side as I turn, right? In order to keep the arms and everything, connected in front of me. And notice how that right elbow kind of tucks into my side in the downswing. So by exaggerating that split grip can really help you feel, right? If you ever played hockey, like a slap shot almost, right? How you're going to have to compress this right side of your body, right? So give that a try if you're getting stuck. I think I heard about that on the Chasing Scratch podcast. At setup, I've seen people say to aim the handle towards your lead thigh. Do you do this? Yes, I do. You definitely want to have the handle leaning forward with the irons, right? More on this left side to keep some of that angle there. Do a barrel roll. You need a new mat badly. I agree with you, Smokey. I agree with you. I'm hoping to find a partner, somebody who would, be interested in working with us to promote some of their stuff, whether it's, launch monitors or hitting mats, stuff like that on the stream. Oh, Squirrel Sniper's going after people. Love it. Have you ever hit it over the net? Only once. Only once. 7 in hand. Let's see you rip one. This is a 7-iron. Yeah, we can hit one hard. Sahil says, YouTube For You page really found me the best YouTuber. Oh, thanks very much, Sahil. I appreciate you saying that. We're still pretty new to this. It's only been since January that we started posting. And it's It's only been, I don't know, 3 or 4 months since we started live streaming. All right, so we're going to try to hit this one hard. Full 7-iron. Like a 185 swing. That was hit okay. We can hit it a little better than that, though. Yeah, something like that. I don't know if I've listened to Chasing Scratch podcast, but I'll have to check that one out. Always good when the chat shows up for you. You're watching in Korea. Amazing. Thank you very much for tuning in. Oh, Squirrel Sniper says you sound a little better than yesterday. I appreciate that. Handicap currently at 2, but usually around 0. It's just been a tough year. So playing some of the worst golf I've played in a long time, but that's okay. Some years are going to be like that. You know, if you're playing bad golf and you're still a 2, it could be worse, I suppose. Plus, we got the added difficulty of having the sun directly in my eyes as I'm swinging. So just, you know, to make things a little more challenging. Kyle wants to know how much is the net. So this one is $6.95. But if you check out the link in the description, there's a discount code if you're interested in, you know, an at-home setup. Get 10% off with that discount code, so go check that out. Love your channel. Thanks, Matthew. Ace Golf says, good swing, mate. Keep up the hard work. Chunk toe hook. That is a shot you could hit. Sorry, asking lots of questions. This last grip do you use and how to set it up perfectly? Don't worry about asking too many questions, bro. That's what we're here for. So I use this overlap grip where my right pinky kind of just sits right on top here. I did interlock for a long time, so that's another common one. The 10-finger baseball grip is a little less common, but you know, you see good players with that sometimes too. Other than that, what I would tell you is try to have this angle, this V, between your index and thumb on both hands, kind of pointed at this right shoulder as you're gripping it, right? So, you know, you'd see maybe 3 knuckles on your left hand. The right hand just sits, you know, on top. And you'll notice that this lead hand, this left hand, is really where a lot of the power and strength in the swing comes from. You know, and a really good drill is to, especially when you're learning, just make a bunch of lead arm only swings. Just feel, you know, how your body wants to move without this right hand on the club. And you'll notice it gets a lot harder to do that early extension, right? Because you're without the right hand pressure to kind of push the club out, right? There's no reason to early extend. And if you were playing with just the left, you know, your lead arm, you would not really have to worry about that, right? I just stay nice and, you know, in my posture, nice balanced finish. So there's a lot of stuff you can learn from doing some of these lead arm only swings. I'm not, I haven't been doing it long enough to really be able to hit shots consistently, although that was pretty good. But I know there are plenty of coaches who really would tell you to hit a bunch of these lead arm only swings. Lead hand thumb, short or long? I'm not sure what I mean. Drop kick every time. Okay, Bender is, he's here watching with us. Top of swing, wrist feel to over hinge. Tell me more, Dylan. Are you trying to... Is it America? This is America, yes. I will subscribe and come to see it often. Very cool. Thanks very much. Tell me more about what you mean about the wrist. You trying to hinge it more or less? Generally what my, understanding or thought process is, right, we're putting this energy into the club, and then the hinge happens in transition, right? And then we're just kind of holding that angle in the downswing, right? But it's just how the club is naturally going to set in transition, from the energy that we're putting into it, right? The same way if you were, cracking a whip or, hitting, hammering a nail, right? It's that you know, the momentum has to shift. And in doing so, that's where that angle comes from, right? And then you just hold it through the strike. That was hit really good. What's the best way to hold your clubs with your hands? So make sure, guys, that the club is in the fingers, right? You're gonna wanna have it, you know, not in the hand here, but, you know, in the fingers on top. And then again, kind of running down the fingers with the right hand. I just have this overlap where everything kind of sits on top, like this. Feel like the wrist collapse at top of swing and overswing slightly. So I think that's where, again, I go back to like the towel drill or putting something under your arms, because it gets really hard to overswing. You're going to get disconnected at some point, right, on this side. So that can really help you understand, like, okay, this is the top of the swing, right? When I'm, you know, the handle isn't really past shoulder height. You know, if you're like a physical freak of nature like John Daly, and you can, you know, really like just turn an insane amount and get the club really far back, then, you know, maybe you could swing that way. But you know, for most of us, just understanding that it's pretty, you know, it's a lot shorter than, you know, when you really are getting it over swinging, right? So put that towel or that band under your arms. Give that one a try. Golfer Lee G from Korea, very cool. Quezzy says, hey man, having trouble with my swing. I have very inside-out swing path. Cannot for the life of me how to figure out make one go straight or really hit a fade. Would love your opinion. Sure, Quezzy. So I would definitely tell you, if you've got the draw swing down, you can play a lot of good golf just hitting one shape. But if it's turning into a hook, or it's, you know, a draw that you're uncomfortable with, I would just get on the range and start playing around with learning how to hit a fade, right? Just practice. You know, you're gonna have to slice some. You're gonna have to slice a whole bunch, right? But what you're trying to produce is a path that's more to the left, right? And a face that's more open than what you currently have, right? You have a closed face and a path that's out to the right. So you're gonna have to really exaggerate this, right? Aim way left, get that face open, you know, feel like you're really cutting across it. And you might hit some that are like, you know, little baby draws at first, right? You're gonna have to really learn how to manipulate that face and path angle, because I want you to develop the skill of, you know, the technique of controlling the face and path relationship, right? Not just, well, put a ball here or something here and hit it 5 times and you can start hitting fades. I'd rather you know, within the context and confines of your own swing, you know, figure out ways to adjust these things and you know, hit the shots that you want. Lead hand, thumb. Oh, I understand what you're saying. Mine is more on the side, so I guess I would say long, right, in what you're saying. But I certainly could see, yeah, certainly if it was more down the shaft, you might feel like it's, you know, holding on to the club face more. But whatever, you know, whatever grip you need to get the face square. How'd you learn your swing? Have you ever had coaching? I have had some coaching over the years, but mostly just a lot of practice, a lot of, you know, what you're seeing right now, hitting balls at the driving range, or, you know, I would just go out and play 36 holes a day as a junior and just really tried to figure it out and teach myself how to score. So yeah, mostly self-taught, but I definitely have had a handful of lessons along the way and had different people help me with different things. Good swing. Thanks very much. Hey, Jason Miller's here. Towel under the arms is a great technique to keep hitting straight, definitely. Is it turning into a hook too much, and when I try to open my face, I just end up pushing a straight ball? Well, that means you know that the path is still out to the right. Right? So, you know, you might need to exaggerate, really feeling like you know, you take it inside and then over the top to shift that path back to the left to be able to hit a fade. So try, you know, just really exaggerating some of those feels. Fam says, your tempo is great. I struggle with it. Thanks very much, Fam. ATL Post says, how do I fix my slice? Great question. So you got to get the club face more closed. And I would recommend this drill to you where you say, I'm going to hit this golf ball. I'm going to put a head cover or something, you know, a blocker. I've got some bricks I use for different things here. You could use a brick, though I don't recommend it. Just behind and to the right of your golf ball, right? And if you do make that over-the-top swing that's going to produce a slice, this will block your path to the ball, right? So learn how to hit some shots where you avoid hitting that head cover, and you'll see that will force the path to be much more neutral and from the inside. And the hint or the tip that I would also give you is that a lot of slicing is because the club head gets going inside this way in the takeaway, right? So if you can learn how to give yourself some more room, create this wide arc, and let the club come more from the inside, it will make it much easier to hit the ball straight and even with a bit of a draw. And you should see that slice start to go away as long as you can keep the club face square. Sorry again about the quality of my voice, guys. It is usually better than this when I'm not quite so under the weather. But like I said earlier, you know, the incremental work that we're doing is better than nothing. So we're going to stick with that. And I appreciate you guys bearing with me. Thanks for all the new subscribers. We've had a ton of success, you know, with the recent videos, tons of comments and likes, new subscribers. What should the wrist be doing throughout the whole swing till follow through? Good question, Sahil. Right, so I try to keep them pretty loose and passive, right? And the wrists kind of, you know, are neutral in the takeaway, right? And then as the club sets in transition, right, you'll notice that kind of the increase in this angle, right? And this is what I'm holding, you know, into impact, right? And then trying to release right at the ball. So there is a, you know, for me, like the release feels a bit like a throw, like I'm, you know, letting out that angle right at the golf ball. Josh wants to know, any tips for body movements for aim? I seem to always not be lined up correctly. So I have a bit of a different opinion on this. I made myself worse, I think, by using alignment sticks a lot at the driving range. And not actually learning how to just, you know, like for me, like aim my body at my target. So I think it's just a thing you have to practice, to be honest, when you're at the range. And, you know, you pick a target, say, you know, there's a blue flag. You're trying to hit the blue flag. Hit 10 balls at the blue flag. And, you know, after each one, write down, did it end up, you know, left of the target or right of the target? You know, if it's right on it, you can just say, you know, in the middle. But if you say that 8 of them are to the right of your target, well, then you know you need to shift your aim to the left, right? So then practice going, okay, I was aim, you know, to hit it at that blue flag. For me, I have to aim further left, and what does that feel like or look like? You know, and you have to just teach yourself how to center your shot pattern at a target, because when you're on the golf course, you don't have alignment rods, you don't have things to tell you where you're aimed. So that's my take, is I think you just have to teach yourself, how do I, you know, it doesn't matter what shot shape you're playing either, right? Because, you know, if you're hitting it at a target, all you're trying to see is, you know, is my dispersion, you know, because you want 5 and 5, right? You want it to be evenly distributed over your target. What are the best drills and advice for a junior golfer shooting mid-80s from 6,000 yards? So I would say work on your short game, right? If you're already shooting in the 80s and you're a junior, work on your short game a bunch. Like you'll never be like, oh man, I just am so upset that I spent more time on my chipping. Because there's going to be days, every player, every good player I've ever talked to will say, like, there's days I'm just not going to hit it great. And you can make not great better, obviously. But certainly bad enough, even for pros, where they're like, I'm going to miss 10, 11, 12 greens. And if you don't have a good short game, you know, those are the rounds that turn into 77s and, you know, get you packing on Fridays. Or you have a really good short game and you make a bunch of putts inside 10 feet and you turn those 77s into 72s or 71s, and then your good rounds can still be good. But definitely work on your short game. And if you're a junior and you already have some skill, like, right, you said you're shooting in the 80s, work on your speed. Another thing you'll always be grateful for is, you know, another few miles an hour of club head speed. You know, that can be specific, like workouts, lifting weights, or speed training, something like the Stack or the Super Speed Golf system that I use. What's your favorite shot shape? I played my best golf, I think, historically, hitting fades, playing the ball, you know, pretty exclusively left to right, and I still, you know, hit driver almost exclusively left to right. If you know, if anything, I've been trying to hit it pretty straight through the bag. But for whatever reason, this year, the draw has felt, you know, easier to access with consistency. So, but again, for how, you know, little the club face rotates in my swing, you know, we're not talking like big 12, 14, 15 yard draws. We're talking, you know, pretty straight shots still. For me, it's more about the feel, right? And I can just access that, you know, what feels like a draw to me has felt easier. But I like hitting fades if I can. Just a little easier to control the golf ball. Hey, Tyneside is here. How are there no dogs barking in your neighborhood during this video? That's funny. If you learn your base natural shot shape, you can either work on your technique or compensate. Caleb's here. What's your handicap? It's currently around 2. Although it is the highest. That's the highest it's been in several years. We were playing around +1 or 0 for a long time. How do I stop hitting a slice with my driver? Good question, Matthew. This is going to be the last question, guys, so appreciate you all being here. You got to get that club face more closed, right? So you can do a drill where you put your head cover down kind of behind and to the right of your club there, of your ball, right? And this is going to force you to approach the ball more from the inside. So learn how to hit some shots with that club head there where you, or that head cover, I should say, where you avoid it, right? And then if you need a task orientation, or, you know, if you're like, hey, it's still not working, clicking for me, get on the driving range and practice. You know, imagine you're going to try to hit it straight down the center of the fairway, so set up like that. And then I told you, okay, you have to hit it into the left trees or the left rough, right? Like the floor is lava. You can't hit it, you know, even in the right center of the fairway. You got to hit it somewhere to the left, right? And just let your brain and your body take over and do what you need to do to close that club face, see that ball. You know, you might hit some big hooks, and that's okay, right? But you're just trying to learn how to get that club face closed. And, you know, sometimes just telling yourself, like, okay, I just have to hit it over there to the left. Like, way, way to the left, you know, instead of trying to hit it, set up like you're going to hit it to center field, and then hit it down the left field line, right? Force yourself to really get that face close and get that ball going right to left. And then you just try to dial it in from there. How do I go from a 15 to single figures? I think you got to work on your impact, right? Because if you're a 15, you can hit the ball solidly sometimes, but not with consistency, right? So just hit a whole bunch, really slow speed. You know, practice getting to a point where you can deliver that club face, the center of the club face, you know, into the back of the ball. You're going to make good solid contact, you know, 8, 9, 10 out of 10 times. You can't practice that enough, seriously. You know, it will translate all the way through the bag. So that's what I would tell you to work on. Thank you guys so much for checking out the stream today. We are definitely, you know, as I continue to feel better, you know, hopefully we'll be able to keep doing this and extend the, you know, do more like 90 minutes to 2 hours at a time. So we're going to call it there. One more chance. If you haven't hit that like button, hit the like button for me. Smash that subscribe button if you want to find out about, you know, when the streams are coming. Check out the videos and shorts that we're uploading. Hit that subscribe button for me. Thanks so much, guys. We'll see you next time.